Does the train only pass once?
Welcome to the Together for Victims podcast. A journey by train around Europe through the complexities of coordinating and harmonising support services for victims of gender-based violence. This journey, shaped by Victim Support Europe, the leading European organisation advocating for the rights and services of all crime victims, explores how 11 partner organisations in the Together for Victims project are working together with one goal: improving services for victims of gender-based and domestic violence. Our Together for Victims podcast takes listeners on a rail journey through 7 countries: Belgium, Croatia, Cyprus, France, Lithuania, the Netherlands and Portugal. And the journey doesn't end there. It will cross even more borders.
In this last episode, we continue exploring the Together for Victims project. We focus on the assessment tool that helps professionals better understand the individual needs of victims of gender-based violence and domestic violence. We are continuing to broadcast from Lisbon on the last day of the spring school.
Beautiful. Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you.
My first guest today is Miran Spek, the Executive Director of the Victims and Witness Support Service Croatia, one of the key project partner organisations in the Together for Victims project. It's so great to have you here, Miran.
Hello, and thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Miran, it's so exciting to be here. It's yet another in-person event organised as part of the project. In the previous episode, we learned about the Spring School, organised in Lisbon. What are your thoughts about the past few days, and how are you doing?
These in-person exchanges are always a great chance to catch up and exchange thoughts about the project. I'm very excited to be here today and to talk about individual needs assessment tool on behalf of my dear colleagues from another Croatian organization, Women's Room. Women's Room have developed the gender-sensitive needs assessment, and we are here in Lisbon, Portugal, to train professionals from all over Europe on how to use it in practice.
Most of our listeners would now be very familiar with the tools that we developed under Together for Victims: the organisational self-assessment and the individual needs assessment. For those who might be tuning in for the first time, welcome. Maybe, Miran, you could remind our listeners what is the individual needs assessment tool that you've developed as part of the Together for Victims project.
But of course, it's really important to highlight that this individual needs assessment tool was developed by our colleagues from Women's Room, a specialized organization with extensive experience in working directly with victims of gender-based violence. Their practical frontline experience played a key role in shaping the tool, making it very grounded in real-life situation and actual needs of survivors. In essence, this tool is structured yet flexible framework that helps professionals identify and understand the full range of a victim's needs. What really makes this tool stand out is that it's not designed as a rigid checklist or something to be mechanically filled in. Instead, it supports professionals in taking a more thoughtful, individualized and gender-sensitive approach. It encourages them to reflect on each person's situation, recognize less visible forms of violence like psychological or economic abuse, and to respond in a way that truly fits that individual. So ultimately, the goal of this tool is to quite simple, but very powerful, to ensure that every victim is seen as individual, that no important need is overlooked, and that the support they receive is meaningful, appropriate, and timely.
That makes a lot of sense. All guests that we've invited here seem to be emphasising the same thing: the importance of an individualised approach. Every victim having their own story, every victim having their own circumstance, and ultimately their own needs. 2 people might go through what seems like a similar situation, but what they need afterwards can be completely different.
That's exactly why taking the time to really understand each individual situation is so important. Through this project and through our close cooperation with colleagues from Women's Room, we have seen how crucial it is to listen carefully and not to make assumptions. And for us at the Victim and Witness Support Service Croatia, this cooperation has really highlighted how much difference as individualized, gender-sensitive approach can make in practice.
It's really great to see all those puzzles falling into place as we slowly move towards the practical implementation of the tool. Imagine I'm a frontline support worker. How would you advise me to use this tool in practice?
Well, if I put myself in the shoes of a frontline support worker, I would use this tool as a kind of guide in the background of my work. It's not something that I would go through step by step during the conversation with a victim, but rather something I would reflect on before or after the meeting with her or him. In practice, it helps you take a step back and ask yourself, have I really understood this person's situation? Have I considered all the important aspects, not just the immediate issue, but also safety, psychological well-being, practical needs, and longer-term support? What's especially valuable is that it brings stronger focus on gender-based violence and its specific dynamics. It reminds you to look out for things like immediate visible, like control, economic dependence, fear that might prevent someone from openly talking about their situation. And at the same time, it's flexible. You can adapt it to your role, to your organization, to your national context. Whatever you are in social worker, you are a psychologist or a legal advisor, it helps you to translate what the victim shares into one clearer understanding of their needs and into a more tailored support plan.
So, with the ongoing Spring School event, is it aimed exactly at this, training practitioners on how to apply the tool in their daily work?
Yes, exactly. That's really the main idea behind the Spring School. Our goal was to bring together practitioners from different countries and support services and give them the space to really understand how to use this individual needs assessment tool in their everyday work. It's not just about presenting the tool in theory, but about making it practical and relevant to what professionals actually face in the field. What's especially valuable is that it focuses on the real-life situations. Participants here have the opportunity to go through examples, discuss different cases, to reflect on how they would apply the tool in their own roles and national contexts. That kind of exchange is crucial because each system works a bit differently, but challenges in supporting victims of gender-based violence are often very similar. The Spring School is also a space for learning from each other. Through discussion and exchanges, practitioners can see different approaches, ask questions, build confidence in using the tool, and at the same time it helps ensure that this tool is understood in a consistent way across different countries.
Miran, I completely agree. It's extremely important to create the space for exchange, discussion, and brainstorming. And it seems that the 2Gether4Victims address this need very thoroughly. I'd like to now spend some time at the site of the event and hear reflections from the organisers, trainers, and the participants.
Great idea.
I thinking about that our Imagine organization will be to provide some cares, or we will be maybe our goals are to change the law and policy and advocacy.
Well, nice question.
Because
we
I
can start
think
with
that
support, and then we can start with support, but we can also do the advocacy. Yeah. Of course, we always have to have in mind our organization self-assessment tool about all this. So can we think about, let's say, one specific goal?
We have to have our policy, organizational policy.
One of the goals should be that we should ensure that all of our staff, members and volunteers understand disability rights, what is disability, and what is disability-sensitive victim support.
Yeah.
So maybe we have some kind of experience working with generic victim support. We understand what's victim in general, but we do not have knowledge about this sensitivity and these special issues. So what action?
Education and some guidelines for further. And also maybe some mentoring from some CSOs that are CSOs of disabilities.
For me, that would be a resource.
Yeah.
Okay.
That you're going to outsource someone with this specific knowledge to help you make some. But what are you making for start?
Mentoring for all the period. We have access to ask when it's something new that comes to the CSO with disabilities.
So, Bruna, what's happening? Did you find Sandra?
So we're here at the Nova University for the 2Gether4Victims Spring School. It's been so busy and I'm seeing so many new faces. I can really feel the excitement of people being here and the participation in the trainings. Everybody's speaking. It's beautiful. Bruno, would you mind if we take a moment of your time? Our listeners would really love to hear from the Master of Ceremonies himself.
Not at all. It's really so lovely to have you here, documenting all our efforts. What do you like to know?
So many things, but I guess I will start with, can you tell us what are the key components of the present training? How are you ensuring that participants feel confident and comfortable in applying this new tool onto their direct work with victims and survivors of gender-based violence and domestic violence?
Yes, of course. This training, we're calling it the Spring School here in Lisbon. The key concepts is all about showing how to deliver gender-sensitive and trauma-informed support so that all victims, regardless of their gender, can have the support that they need and is actually specific to their gender, so they feel comfortable, supportive, and safe whenever they need to seek help. And we do this through a combination of both theory and practice. We put together all the research that we did and incorporated it in two new tools, one called Individual Needs Assessment Tool, another Organizational Self-Assessment Tool, and we have dedicated sessions to create an understanding of how support service should be done, the different dynamics of gender-based violence, and anything that would be of help and of support to its victims.
This sounds incredible, and that theory to practice is so important. I know that this training is in person, but I'm wondering, would there be anything for our listeners who are working with victims? Would there be a way for them to participate in future?
Yes, of course. As part of the training itself, we're taking a very participatory approach where we're already learning so much from the different support organizations coming from 13 different European countries. And we're including all of this in an online training tool, which then will allow for any victim support organization, basically any organization that's supporting victims of gender-based violence, to learn how to use the Individual Needs Assessment Tool and the Organizational Self-Assessment Tool and help them grow and to help them support even more victims.
This is brilliant, and I'm so excited to hear that there's that opportunity for our listeners. Thank you so much for taking the time to explain this to us, Bruno. I know you are super busy. I know you need to run now. Good luck with the rest of the event, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. I'm sure our dear participants will be super happy to learn from everything that you're sharing. Thank you so much for everything.
What should we do to make the space and the service, the support service, 100% accessible?
The part of the policy of the organization on gender sensitive approach. Yes. Mm-hmm. So the first thing, perhaps, we need a policy on gender sensitive approach. Mm-hmm. That's it. So this morning we are one organization, yes, and we are starting. So what will be our first thing to do? Thinking in a policy on gender sensitive approach. That's it. So we can put here systematic. We can do this specific goal. It will be our specific goal to have a policy on this issue. Yes or not?
Yes. So
yes.
The specific goal is actually to have the policy.
Yes.
Yes.
So,
gender.
So can we put this on specific goal? Yes. Are we agree on this? Yes. Let us go. So specific goal is to have
gender sensitive policy.
Yes. Why we need that? Does it exist? What is the gaps?
Maybe if we don't have one, it's a major gap.
Or at least it is not comprehensive yet.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes. Yeah. So the gap can be one of the gaps is this. Yes? Do we have other gaps?
I've just seen Joanne and Claire. Do you have a moment to share your thoughts about the training?
Yes, of course. Sure.
We heard that 2Gether4Victims has invited many participants from all over Europe to take part in this training and learn more about the project and its tools. Could you tell us a bit about your organisation, where you're from, and what are your key areas of work?
So we are Victim Support Malta, from Malta. And at Victim Support, if we had to summarize our work, we work with victims impacted by trauma. This includes victims impacted by crime, by sexual assault, as well as suicide. When it comes to crime, our main client population is those affected by domestic violence, and we offer legal services. We offer social work, psychiatry, and therapy.
Yes, I'm the head of service of Care for Victims of Sexual Assault, and as my colleague Joanne said, we offer different modalities of psychological therapy together with psychiatry and legal representation, especially for victims of sexual assault.
This sounds like really important work. Thank you so much for sharing. So you've been attending the training for the past few days and you're representing Malta here with us. Tell us, based on the exchanges you've had and the people you've met from multiple parts of Europe, can you already see some differences in how victim support systems are working, but also how the needs assessment tool may be working slightly different depending on the location?
Yes, of course. Obviously, things will work differently across different countries due to cultural differences, geographic differences, and it's always interesting to see how things work differently and how, although they work differently, they are effective for that particular context. It's been interesting to see as well. So on individual needs, I felt I had quite a good grasp of what is needed. But in my director role, which I started in June, I felt I needed more of an organizational understanding of what was needed. And I think this training was very useful in that matter.
With regards to difference, I believe our organization focuses on different genders and different clients, whereas some of the organizations are more specific to the female gender. We also feel the difference in the sense that we have a lot of different nationalities who access our services from different countries, both as tourists and as third country nationals and refugees.
Balance of having the local services for local people, third country nationals, the tourists also. Victim Support Europe tries to do a lot of work, I understand, on cross-border victims. It can be quite tricky. It sounds like I've been speaking to Miran about the individual needs assessment tool. Just one final question. From what you've learnt in the spring school with the individual needs assessment, is there anything new or anything that you would like to bring forward from what you've learnt both from the training and from others?
I think the training was in itself encouraging because our intake process seems very in line with what is needed in the individual needs assessment. I think what I want to bring now is more on the organizational level, so drafting stronger policies, communicating them more clearly to my staff, and as well working further on the well-being of my staff. So I think that is what I will take away, the policy aspect.
From my end, I feel that the training we've had so far gives us confidence in what we're doing already. We can see that we can open our vision to a larger spectrum of service users and be more flexible and empathetic towards a more variety of people with needs.
This is so important, and thank you so much for speaking to me today. It makes total sense that there's certain differences, but that the individual needs assessment tool, as well as the organisational level, because they work together, it seems, helps bridge those differences by reinforcing what should be at the core everywhere. Throughout the podcast, we've learned about that respect, that informed consent, that sensitive support, for victims of gender-based violence, creating a shared understanding with standards applicable for different contexts. I'm going to move back to the studio to share some final reflections and look ahead with Miran, but thank you so much for your time and enjoy the rest of the spring school.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
We heard about the training directly from the authors of the programme and from the participants who have had the chance to join this one-of-a-kind event in person. To wrap it all up, I'm coming back to Miran. Could you tell us, from the perspective of someone who's been involved in the project from day one, what will feel different for victims of gender-based violence or domestic violence because of this work?
Well, one of the key changes this work aims to bring is a more consistent and thoughtful approach on how professionals support victims of gender-based violence. We heard some remarks about the difference between countries or organizations, but everyone working with the victims needs to a deep understanding of trauma, its impact on a person's behavior and decision-making, and the broader context in which violence happens. Through tools like individual needs assessment and the approaches behind it, the interaction becomes more focused on the person, not just on the trauma of violence they have experienced. That means professionals are more attentive to their specific situation, their fears, priorities, and pace at which they are ready to move forward. In practice, it means creating a safer space for communication, avoiding unnecessary pressure, and ensuring that the person is not met with a judgment or assumptions. This kind of approach supports empowerment. By recognizing the impact of trauma and respecting one person's pace and choices, it helps restore a sense of control which is often significantly affected by the experience of violence.
Lastly, I'd like to ask you, what changes do you hope to see across Europe if this approach spreads widely?
If this approach becomes more widely used across Europe, then one of the key changes we hope to see is more consistent and high-quality standard of support for victims of gender-based and domestic violence, regardless of where they seek help. We also hope to see better coordination between different services. When professionals share a common framework like individual needs as a tool, it becomes easier to communicate, collaborate, and to ensure continuity of support. That can make a big difference for victims who often have to navigate multiple systems at the same time. In the longer term, this approach could also contribute to greater trust in the support system. When people know that they will be met with understanding, with respect, with consistency, they may feel more encouraged to seek help earlier. And finally, an important shift would be moving away from one-size-fits-all approach towards more individualized support. Recognizing that every person's experience is different and responding accordingly is the heart of improving how to support victims of gender-based violence.
Thank you so much, Miran, for sharing this vision on behalf of the authors of the tool at Women's Room, but also more widely on behalf of all project partners and participants to the ongoing training. We all look forward to seeing the systems improving and becoming more victim-friendly, thanks to common standards, tools, and initiatives such as 2Gether4Victims.
Thank you for having me.
Anytime. Our spring school has now come to an end, and I'm honestly left with a mix of hope and admiration for everything that project partners have achieved over these past few months. The 2Gether4Victims project is really much more than just a programme. It's a genuine effort to make a real difference for people who have experienced gender-based violence. What really stands out to me is the focus on adapting support to each person's individual needs. I also really appreciate the emphasis on being gender sensitive and inclusive of different groups. That's so important. I also found the development of the organisational self-assessment and individual needs assessment tools really meaningful and important. They give organisations a way to reflect on their work and improve their services so they can better support victims, especially those from marginalised communities. Hopefully, these tools can be replicated in other countries in the coming years. Hearing about all the collaboration between organisations across Europe honestly gives me a lot of hope. It shows there's a real shared commitment to improving victim support together. As I wrap up this 2Gether4Victims journey and my travels across Europe, I feel a renewed sense of purpose. I'm really grateful for everything I've learned about new and innovative ways to support victims of gender-based and domestic violence. Overall, this experience and this podcast has really deepened my understanding of the challenges people face and reminded me how important it is that everyone gets the right support to heal and move forward. Does the train only pass once?
You're listening to the Together for Victims podcast, focusing on gender-based violence services. This podcast was produced by the Together for Victims project, led by Victim Support Europe in collaboration with 10 partner organisations and funded by the SERVE programme of the European Commission, co-funded by the European Union. Views and opinions expressed are however those of the authors only and do not necessarily reflect those of the European Union or the European Commission. Neither the European Union nor the granting authority can be held responsible for them.